Lee knew he was in danger and that he was fearing for his life, but he was scared of getting help because he didn't know what the consequences of asking for help was going to be.
He liked being around people. He was sociable. He was kind. He was funny. He was no trouble whatsoever.
He was a big, friendly giant, always caring for me, always there if I needed him. Your typical big brother.
But 48-year-old Lee Smith was vulnerable. He was trying to kick a long-term drug habit, and in February last year, he moved into an assisted living flat in Eccles, Salford.
So Lee was starting to turn his life around, was going to development sessions, engaging with the support workers, and looked to be trying to get away from the life of drugs.
He was doing really well. I don't know what happened or how he met these people, but he started taking drugs again.
Intelligence suggests that he may have been targeted by a local gang, started to be exploited, and these individuals, younger individuals, teenagers, were using his flat as a base, and essentially he was a victim of what is known as cuckooing.
Cuckooing is a process where organised crime gangs effectively take over an individual's home, and they'll use that home for criminal purposes. They will store firearms there, they will cut and bag and sell drugs from that location. Criminals will identify people, understanding either that they've got a drug habit or there's some issues with mental health. They will approach those individuals to befriend them initially, trying to give them things, trying to give them either drugs or alcohol, but that relationship quickly turned sour, and those people are often in fear of the gangsters that come to their home.
Lee's housing officer did raise some concerns for his safety. Officers went round on 2 occasions just to discuss what was going on. Lee suggested that the individuals that he was involved in would know that the police were there and that he would be at risk even from talking to us. And essentially, sadly, it seemed to accept his fate.
I always knew Lee was struggling, but I just didn't expect it ever to end like it did.
On the evening of June 21st last year, 4 teenagers entered Lee's flat.
The police were contacted by a neighbour, I think about 7 o'clock in the morning, was coming back into the communal area and noticed that Lee's front door was ajar. She went into the flat and found him in his living room, lying on the floor, not moving.
I was at work and I got a phone call asking me to come home, that something really bad had happened. I just went numb, I just went into shock straight away. I couldn't believe it. It was awful what happened to him. In the space of 3 minutes. They just left him to die. I can't stop thinking about what his last words were, what his last thoughts were, how long it took him to die. And he just died on his own. Never got to say goodbye.
We start with the scene, assess what forensic information there might be available, speak to neighbours, speak to other people that live nearby, conduct CCTV inquiries, and then start to overlay them all together to see if there's a pattern forming. I think the nature of the injuries that sustained, it seemed clear to me at an early stage that this was a revenge attack, a punishment attack of sorts that had gone tragically wrong. Some real key lines of inquiry came from CCTV, as it often does. We were able to see that there were 4 individuals at around the time we think the offence occurred seemed to walk towards the flat, and then about a minute and a half later seemed to run away. It became at that point a case of trying to identify who they were, plot the movements away from the scene a bit further, track the movements via taxis, and able to plot the movements back to addresses.
That work yielded 2 names.
Jacob Cookson and Logan Eaton were 2 individuals that we knew from the research that we did were involved in the exploitation of Lee, and there was intelligence to suggest that they were using his flat. We recovered Lee's phone and subjected it to a download and examination. There were various things on there of relevance and interest. Communications that he had with these individuals, text messages, text conversations, where he hints at being at risk of harm, and sadly, in many ways, predicted what was to come. It just so happened that the CCTV inquiries that we did to plot the movements of these 4 individuals led us to addresses that were linked to both Jacob Cookson and Logan Eaton. It was at that point, it was pretty clear they were both to be suspects, and so that then changes to a manhunt.
By examining the phone records and location info on the suspects' mobiles, detectives were able to prove their guilt. Jacob Cookson was jailed for 19 years and Logan Eaton for 17.
They're locked up. These particular people can't do the same again to anybody else. So yes, it means a lot.
After the court case, we found out exactly what had been happening to Lee, and it was a lot to take in. Mum just couldn't cope. She just sat there in the same space on the couch for months and just wouldn't move, because there's something always in the back of your head that reminds you of Lee and what he went through.
That day after Lee's killers were sentenced, Greater Manchester Police, the local council and the NHS announced the launch of a new task force aimed specifically at tackling the problem of cuckooing, Operation Firestop. Since it was set up, it's protected 38 others from further harm.
The work that we've done within Salford is to really encourage members of the public who feel that they might be victims of cuckooing to come forward, because we will listen and we will support individuals to take them away from harmful environments.
Operation Firestop came into place after what happened with Lee, and I think it's brilliant. I think if what happened to Lee can help or even save others, then I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Well, we're joined